America among many, many others. I'm not going to waste any more time because StreamYard has been really stupid tonight and we don't care. Dr. Winters, the floor is yours.
Thank you. How's everybody doing, family? Today we're going to talk about my book, Blacks in Europe from Prehistory to Contemporary Times. And in this book, I talk about, the relationship and history of Black people in Europe. Many people think that Europe is a white continent. No, Caucasians only began to expand across Europe only around 1200 BC. Prior to 1200 BC, there were no Caucasian people in Europe. I'm also going to talk a little bit about my manufactured genetic origins, the fake Eurasian back migration. In this book, I talk about the fact that they teach you that many Caucasians have a genetic profile that leads back to Europe. No, that's wrong. Caucasians originated in Central Asia.
Central
They
Asia.
they didn't really originate in Europe, you see. And also, you can get my book, The World History of the Black Race. All three of these books, Blacks in Europe, from prehistory to contemporary times, The World History of the Black Race, Manufactured Genetic Origins for Fake Eurasian Back Migration. You can get those, any of those books, you can find them at Amazon.com. I want to show this video to tell you a little bit about myself. Oh no. Well, it's not working.
Oh, welcome to my channel.
Okay, we aren't just Africans. Many people don't understand is that back in the day, they sent numerous black chattel slaves to the New World. They sent them to the Caribbean, and they also sent them to the United States. What many people don't understand though is that beginning in 1625, the first chattel slaves were put on the plantations in the United States, and they joined Aboriginal Black Americans, foundational Black Americans who had been enslaved. And see what they did in a sense is that the Protestants, they hated the Catholics, and many of the Catholics, as you know, they had money, they were rich, they owned the largest states in Ireland, Wales, and Scotland. They also owned many of the largest states in Britain. Do you know, family? Do you know that it was black people who built the London Bridge? It was black people who built the Tower of London. It was black people who built the castles throughout Europe. Between 1651 and 1654, 300,000 to 400 Irish Roman Catholic blacks were sold as slaves, chattel slaves. You never hear about the original black Irish that came to the Americas. All they talk about is the Irish that came over after the potato famine.
Mm-hmm.
Those were not the real Irish. Those were not the original settlers. These were the serfs. Because the original black Irish, they were the elites. They were the ones who owned the land, the largest states. They were the ones who owned the castles. Irish men served as mercenaries. They were sold to be placed in armies across Europe, especially France and Spain. Women were sold elsewhere. Many of these slaves were women and children sent to Barbados and the 13 colonies. 50,000 a year Irish slaves were sold to the New World. They were sold to the New World by Oliver Cromwell. Oliver Cromwell reconquered Ireland in 1649. He hated Catholics. He massacred 3,500 in the first battle. The rest were sold as slaves to 13 colonies in the Caribbean. These Irish slaves were sold in high numbers. You see, here's a picture of Oliver Cromwell. As you can see, Oliver Cromwell was just a straight-haired, light-skinned brother. You see, but many people don't understand that at that time it was friction between the black Catholics and the black Irish.
He looks like Cat Williams with the
Oh yeah,
process.
he was an evil guy. He was an evil guy, very evil. Here's a picture where you can see. Now this is I didn't draw this. This picture was done in the 1600s, and it shows you these black women, these black Irish women, and these Caucasians taking their babies, throwing them into the river, just drowning them. They were very horrible, very terrible. See, but this was based upon religion. I'm sorry, I feel that religions can cause a lot of problems. Catholics against the Protestants, the Shia Muslims against the Sunni Muslims. Many people, in a sense, who can even have the same beliefs. They can believe in the same God and call the God by the same name, and yet they can hate each other and want to destroy each other. And so what we find is that in the 1600s, before 1670, because remember, those Africans that came to the United States, Jamestown in 1619, they were indentured servants. I repeat, the first Africans that came to Jamestown in 1619, they were indentured servants. The real chattel slaves were Aboriginal Indians and these Black Irish. And the first, look at this map.
Hold on one second. Just one moment, Dr. Winters.
Okay.
For everybody that's watching this, if you want to see it, you need to go to my StreamYard channel or my YouTube channel that's being streamed. There's no excuse. I sent the information out. The information's available. Don't bitch and complain on my phones. It's all up on StreamYard. The announcement was put out before 12:30 this morning. No reason you can't see it. If you elect to come here and look through YouTube, which is your choice, that's just to let people know. But in this instance, you want to go to the StreamYard and to get that link, it's out there. You can also see that you won't see a lot of things this way. That's why we pay for a StreamYard channel. We pay professional so you can see it. If you elect not to go there, that's a choice.
And it's also on my YouTube.
Yeah,
it's on my YouTube channel and my Facebook channel.
And your YouTube channel is
Clyde Winters Black History.
Clyde Winters Black History. There's nothing stopping people. Please don't do that. We are more mature than that, people. So it's up on multiple platforms.
Right. And so as you can see, the first triangle of trade was between England sending over black Irish slaves, not African slaves. Remember, sub-Saharan Africans were not made slaves until after 1660, and really after 1700. You may ask the question, if tens of thousands of Irish and Scotsmen were Negro or black, especially the elites, why aren't they depicted as blacks in the paintings? The answer is simple. Most of the original paintings of the Baradanacs, that's what you call the original inhabitants of the British Isles. They were the Baradanac people, or black people like you, black people like me, black people like us. Here's a picture of King James. And King James, he translated the Bible. In the center picture, you see the original engraving of King James. You see, and then you see modern colored copies on the outsides, and as you can see.
Okay, now he looks like Malcolm X in the middle.
Yeah, but as you notice, they changed this picture. They changed this picture to try to paint him white. And you're saying, how did they do that? Let me explain to you what happened. There was a man called Thomas Cromwell. And see, the paintings of the Baradanacs of blacks of Britain were purposely destroyed by this man, Thomas Cromwell. He hated Catholics and blacks generally. You see, Selwood did an article for the Telegraph, and he wrote that, and I quote, "Against a backdrop of Henry VIII's marital strife, the pathetically ambitious Cromwell single-handedly masterminded the break with Rome in order to hand Henry the church with its all-important divorce. Flushed with the success of engineering Henry's first divorce, Cromwell moved on to confiscating the church's money." Yes, it's all about the Benjamin. He added that with lazy strokes of his pen, he condemned royalty, nobles, peasants, nuns, and monks to horrific summary executions. You don't even understand. You got to understand that they took all these black people. These were black people who are musicians. These are black people who were organists. They could play every instrument. They took the entire bands. They took all the elites. They took everybody that owned the land, and they sent them over here as slaves. And you know what they did? You know what they did? They allowed the white serfs. They allowed the white serfs that fought with Oliver Cromwell to take the land of the black Catholics.
Okay, and Dr. Winters, let's remind people, we have this YouTube up because we were having technical resistance from StreamYard. It will not allow my camera to come on. It's got Dr. Winters, but it doesn't have me. Go figure. If you want to see the pictures, the slides that he's putting up, you need to either come to my StreamYard channel, which has 46 people who figured out. All I have to do is click on the highlighted text and I'll go to the thing if they wish to. Or you can go to Dr. Winters, Dr. Clyde Winters, Black History?
Afrocentric history.
Afrocentric history. It's available. Versus you just hearing a voice, you can see what we're seeing.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it one more time, and from there on out, for anybody on here watching this in the stream, if you'd like to help, you can point people to Dr. Winters' channel. If they don't see it, they can't see it, it's up. So my StreamYard or Dr. Winters' YouTube channels. Repeat it one more time for them, and I'm never going to interrupt you again. We only have to tell white folk once. White people only have to tell us one time. We respect white people. Black people, we demand be told 10 times, and we still don't do it. That is an enemy. You have an enemy mindset when your folk give you info, and you still do the same thing. Life's going to be very difficult for people that don't get instruction when it's given the first time. When it's given the second time, you may not get a third. I will not interrupt you again, Elder.
Okay, well, I only got a few more because we want to get to the specifics.
Yes,
but again,
sir.
Thomas Cromwell had a direct impact on the disappearance of arts, desiccating the Baradanacs. Selwood in 2015 wrote, and I quote, "And then there is the impact on this country's artistic and intellectual heritage. No one can be sure of the exact figure, but it is estimated that the desiccating destruction started by Cromwell amounted to, listen to this, family, amounted to 97% of the English art then in existence." That means that Thomas Cromwell, he destroyed all 97%. 97%. He destroyed statues were hacked down. Frescoes were smashed to bits. Mosaics were pulverized. Illuminated manuscripts were shredded. Wooden carvings were burned. Precious metal was melted down. Shrines were reduced to rubble. This vandalism went way beyond a religious reform. It was a frenzy, obliterating the artistic patrimony of centuries of indigenous craftsmanship with an intensity of hatred for imagery and depicting the divine that has strong and resonant parallels today. Now you know why we have very few artifacts depicting the Baradanacs.
And there's a term called iconoclast. And although they don't call, I don't know why I call him Oliver Cromwell when it's Thomas Cromwell.
Thomas Cromwell, he destroyed all the artifacts. Oliver Cromwell, he's the one who put the Black Irish into slavery.
But weren't they in the same contemporaries?
No, they don't. Some people, they don't know if Thomas Cromwell. He was much later. They don't know if he was related to Oliver Cromwell or not. But as you can see, family, if you do have the slide, you can see the Telegraph. You can see the newspaper where it was. Thomas Cromwell was the Islamic State of his day. It's written by Dominic Selwood, and it was written in 2015. So if you want to get the authentic, if you want to get the original article, you can go to the internet. I like to bring receipts because a lot of black people, they think you make up stuff. But you need to understand why. You know, when you look at this picture and you see these various people, you see black people, you know, doing various types of work. You know, you can't tell if they were slaves. You can't tell if they were free. You can't tell if they were Europeans, black Europeans, because they were all black. There was an estimated 200,000 black Irish to 400,000 black Irish sold into slavery between 1651 and 1660. The black Irish were replaced by whites from England who were given land to settle in Ireland.
And that's a
You know,
conflict to this day.
it is. It
And
is.
those folks are up in Ulster. Those are the Orange men. And in fact, the Irish Catholics were copying the black folks when we were younger. Remember, they were
Yeah.
singing "We Shall Overcome," and they got shot and beat. They were trying to copy black Americans.
Yeah. But
Keep
see,
going.
but the black Irish, they didn't sing. The black Irish, they used swords and bows and arrows.
Mm-hmm.
They fought. They didn't take it down. See, that's one of the reasons that make us a unique people, is because we're prisoners of war. We don't take lying down. We don't, in a sense, allow you to just whip our ass without fighting back. Many blacks who live in the United States today have a direct European heritage. This class of FBA would mainly be descendants of Catholic blacks, Irish, Scotsmen, sent to the 13 colonies between 1625 and 1660. Some descendants of free European blacks probably went to Canada after the Revolutionary War. Right here, a lot of people say, Dr. Winter, stop talking this issue. What are you talking about? I want to read you some advertisements that go back to this period. Here's an ad written in July 1763. Listen, I quote: "Run away from the subscriber living in Lancaster. A native Irish servant woman named Kathy Norton, who came from the county of Wicklow in Ireland last fall. She is about 25 or 26 years of age, of a dark complexion, has black hair, and talks in the Irish dialect. Rocks in her walk and is pretty sharp and taking. She is a cunning hussy, and no doubt will pass a while for an honest woman." You see, they had these were the damn Irish slaves. These were your damn parents, your great-grandparents. Let me read you another. This is from the Virginia Gazette. "Ran away the 8th of July last from the subscriber living in Westmoreland County. 4 servant men: John McHugh, Francis Mann, Daniel Fitzpatrick, and John Freelove. John McHugh is an Irishman of the middle stature, a swarthy. What does swarthy mean? Black. Of a swarthy complexion. His hair is just cut off and is a blacksmith by trade. He has one of his arms a bleeding heart, wrecked with gunpowder, and a name at length with several other letters. He has on when he went away a bluish gray coat." And let's hear about this other brother. "Oh, Francis Mann is an Englishman of a middle stature, swarthy complexion, short brown hair, and yellowish rotten teeth." Yes, I don't have to make this issue up, but you need to know this because we're going to get deep into this. And when Dr. Short explains to you about genealogy and tracing our ancestors back, you'll see that yes, it was black Irish slaves here. But then what happens? See, how do we know? How do we know? Well, this is how we know. You know, what they did is that they wanted to knock off they wanted to get rid of the Catholic king. So they wanted to get rid of King John. And so then what happened is that there became a movement called the Jacobite movement. But see, King William, he came from Germany. He had about a few thousand troops with him when he came. But he came from England, and they allowed him to become the King of England. And the reason they allowed King William of Germany to become the King of England was because the fact is that King William was married to King John's, one of King John's daughter. But what happened is they were very upset, very scared of the Jacobites. So they had a spy. So King William from Germany, he had a spy. The spy's name was John Mackay. John Mackay was a spy of King William III. His job was to spy on the Jacobites. John Mackay, in Memoirs of the Secret Services of John Mackay, 1733, tells us about his monitoring of the Jacobites. In the memoir, John Mackay described the complexions of the Jacobite leaders. In his writing, Mackay makes it clear that Charles Seymour, Duke of Somerset, Sidney Godolphin, Lord Treasurer of England, Daniel Finch, Secretary of State, the Earl of Nottingham, John Holmes, Duke of Newcastle, on the left. That's the picture they give you. Duke of Newcastle. Charles Leonard, Duke of Richmond, son of King Charles II, and his brother Charles Beauclerc, Duke of St. Albans. And he's on the left. Now you see these two people now, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, now you see their pictures, but this is how they really look. They were all Duke of St. Albans. They were all described as having very black complexions or black Rudy. See, do you see? But they could change. They could change the pictures. Now these people that you see on the left hand side, that was those people who were described as black. But what happened is that Thomas Cromwell, he destroyed all the paintings so he could, in a sense, make new paintings and make them look white. See?
And Dr. Winters, you mentioned this thing, and when you're talking about the escaped slave 2 slides ago,
yeah,
and the name was called Lancaster. All right.
She was a hussy.
But she's from Lancaster. I don't know if that's Pennsylvania or where that was.
I was in Ireland.
But it's Lancaster.
That would have been Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
That's a Lancaster, Pennsylvania, exactly. That's all named after these people who got forced out of England, because that's my maternal family. That's the conversation we've been having. And so the family is in, these are British Catholics who got forced out, and they're in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and somewhat in Virginia. There's a few in North Carolina, but they all got land in the Chesapeake. They gave them Maryland, the colony for Catholics, to kick the people out. And and that's where a lot of the people come from. So you see this over and over and over again, that a lot of the big names that you have on the East Coast are often the names of areas established by these displaced Irish or Catholic or Scottish black people, Black Irish. In fact, I'll go further. I didn't talk to you, but I was looking up today, and I need to look into it. But there's a possibility that Maria Santos, you need to pay attention. Paga atenção, por favor. Você precisa de buscar para minha página em StreamYard. Agora você não pode ver as picturas aí. You're never going to see it looking here. Eu dar as informações sobre isto há 12 minutos atrás. I'm done with that. That's my only other language. Look, hold it. What I'm saying, before I answer that, because people need to look, people need to pay attention. Pay attention, folks. It's not hard. And we don't do this when we're around white people. When white people tell us what to do, we get it the first time. When a black person says it 3 times, we still don't get it. You need prayer. It's on StreamYard. It's on Dr. Winter's channel. We said what that is. I ask other people, if you're on here, if you see someone asking a question, please tell them it's not up here. Okay, we're doing this to work around what StreamYard does. Let's work together, not against each other. I'm done with that. Look, Dr. Winters, there's a possibility that the state of Maine, right, New England, may have been named for one of these families in French. Okay, M-A-I-N is your hand. And then that became Maine. But there are people, there was a person that got killed in what's called Maine, fighting with Aboriginal people who was in the Maine family. But the original name is Man. Well, I'm going to ask you about that later, about how all of these Normans and other people who left continental Europe to take over England, went through a process of changing their names repeatedly as they changed their identities to fit in to the Anglo-Saxon society in which they were the minority rulers. You understand what I'm talking about?
Well, see, it's a little bit more complicated than that. You have to understand, in a sense, is that some of it was changed, some of the language changed, but you have to remember is that European languages, they change more quickly than African
And I
languages.
was saying, but the
And
names,
that
not the
result,
language changing, the family names changing.
yeah,
Sometimes
but see,
the names would be Arabic or Spanish or
yeah,
whatever, and then
but see,
they would keep changing it until you got what we would call English names, but they started off as something else.
but see, the names would change because remember, we're not speaking in the original English dialect of
Right.
1600. That's why when you really study Indo-European linguistics,
Okay.
then you can see that these
Great.
changes over time. But it's very important to remember. Let me get back because I'm gonna be done and we'll get through and we can
Right.
really talk about this. Okay, King William III came to power through the support of parliamentary opposition to King James II. Williams was prominent soldier that was married to Kingill, daughters of Mary. Okay, in 1688, there was a parliamentary opposition invited William to take over the British crown. William landed in England in November 1688 with 463 ships and 14,000 troops. William marched on London and King James fled to France. In
Mm.
February 1689, William became King William III and Queen Mary II. This takeover of the crown by King William was called the Glorious Revolution. That's why, as you told the family, Dr. Short, often in a sense, that's why we see this relationship between those black people in the UK and in France. Because of the fact, in a sense, many of them had these relationships. But there was another Irish relationship that came from the Danes, because see, many of the so-called Vikings that settled in Ireland, they were Moors also. But that's another story. We're not going there today.
Mm-mm.
These are the Jacobites. The Parliament passed the Bill of Rights around this time. This law made it against the law for any Catholic or descendant of King James to become King of England. This picture is the Jacobite Prince James III in 1566. Yes, this is one of the few paintings that we have of the Black royals, and you can clearly see that this was a brother.
Mm.
See,
And
King
he looks
James,
like Charles Drew.
yeah, King James VI of Scotland was King James III of England. His son was James Francis Edward Stuart. He was the Jacobite Prince of King James III. See, you have to understand again, as I told you, much of this information on the Jacobites come from this book, Memoirs of the Secret Service of John Mackay, Esquire. This book, keep it up, Charles. He tells about all these people. He tells about Charles the Nuts, Duke of Richmond, son of Charles I, black complexion, much like King Charles. John Lord Somers, late Lord Chancellor, brown complexion. The Chancellor was black. Daniel Earl of Nottingham, Secretary of State, a tall, thin, black man.
Dr.
Charles Duke of
Winters,
Somers. Go ahead.
remember I mentioned to you that up on this genealogical thing that some of the people in Nottingham, the Sirs, are on my family tree. Remember, I mentioned that to
We're
you.
going to get into that.
No, I'm just saying that's wild, that this Nottingham thing. That's because I'm like saying, God, how did we become black if everybody was white, and you learn everybody's not white?
Right.
Okay, keep going. Keep going.
That's why John McKay's memoir, The Secret Service, is so important, because it's telling you how the Secretary of State looked, how the Lord Chancellor looked, how how the son of King Charles, Duke of Somerset, pages 16 and 17, Master of the Horses, reign of Charles II, black complexion. John Duke of Buckinghamshire was Earl of Mulgrave in the reign of King Charles, brown complexion. Yes. All you had to do is read the books. Here's some of the prisoners that were sent out of England. Look at these names. Let's look at these names. They were on a book. They was on a boat called the Veteran. It was a boat called the Veteran. The master of the boat was John Rickey. Let's look at some of the names. John Adam. He was a laborer. He was from the county of Stirling. He was brown. William Bell, a weaver. He came from Berwick. He He was 5'4". He was black with curly hair, strong made. Douglas Campbell. He was a servant from Loch Harbor. Brown complexion, well made, ruddy. Alex Catanach, a miller. Bedenock, black, Rudy. See, healthy. Look at this brown, black, brown, black, black, brown. They told you a lot. They tell you that every damn light-skinned black person they grandmama was raped. That's a damn lie, man. That's a damn lie. Here's the evidence. Here's the receipts. But they had told you a lot. They had told you that all of us came from Africa. Yes, many of my ancestors came from Africa, but most of the people did not come from Africa. Most of our ancestors were Aboriginals, or they were black Europeans, but they were, I'm sorry to say, many of them were chattel slaves, but not all of them. Not all of them. Not all of them. Try to get my books, Blacks in Europe, and the world history of the black race. And, I hope you guys, right now we're doing a Black History class. Me and Sister Shanice. It started on Monday. If you want to join this, you can go to sistershanice.gumroad.com. If you go here, you can join the class. The class is 199 pounds, or you can pay on installment. And the thing is this, is that in this class, we're teaching more about the history of blacks in Britain, When we start talking, when Dr. Shore start telling you about the relationships between our people and how so many of us have these black European and Indian ancestors, you'll understand. But I didn't want you to look at this, and when he starts talking, for you to think that he's talking out of his neck. He's not talking out of his neck. He's not trying to brag. We're not bragging about it. I could care less. Stop, Clint. I could care less. But we're here to teach you some knowledge, family. We're here to teach you about our history. And we have a great history. We have what's called apartheid origin. That means that we have 3 co-ancestors that led to our ethnogenesis. Our ancestors are the Aboriginal blacks, the Black Irish, the Scottish, and finally the Sub-Saharan Africans. But the Sub-Saharan Africans, they didn't become chattel slaves until about almost 70 to 100 years after they already was enslaving the Aboriginals and the Black Irish. You need to know this. Dr. Shore, can you tell them about your journey?
Well, my journey is, if you can hear me, I am having genuine problems with.
I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. The camera's not working, folks, so don't complain to me. But they're working it tonight. Look, a few months ago, I was determined to find who had been a slave in, wow. It just went down, guys. I'll try to get it back up. It just went down. I told y'all they're giving us some push tonight, man. Hope this opens back up, so bear with it. Hopefully this will open back up. Yeah, it's all right. Let me give it a second. attention. It's easier to not pay attention. We do think that it takes all of us did. But if you're negative, you need to be pissing me off. It's negative. So, come on, the sisters have a problem. I don't want to hear from you. If you don't have a solution, don't say anything. How can I help the person if I can't leave it alone? There's something. I apologize. It crashed. No, it's not space, any of that. Um, it is worked. I told you it's nope. That's it. Nope. Yep. The people who do that aren't really. They're not telling you anything. They don't give you anything ever. Hurry up. Let me. We're getting. That's an interruption.